Hey guys, and welcome back to Trail North Podcast. I am your host, John Dowd, and today I am joined by Patrick Diedrich of Recoil Offgrid, the magazine, and it sounds like other things they have going on that we will talk about today. I usually write a bio, but he wrote a pretty great one, kind of last minute in the airport, it sounds like. So we're going to go ahead and read that one because it's great.
Let's do it.
All right. So Patrick spent over a decade in the U.S. Army conducting combat reconnaissance, leading a personal security detail through Baghdad and training foreign soldiers before he picked up a pen. He later served as a training officer with Superior Search and Rescue, preparing volunteers and first responders to find people on their worst days. Instincts grown and honed over the years drives his work as editorial content director at Recoil Offgrid, where he tests every skill and every piece of gear the hard way in the field. He's stalked through the Amazon with indigenous hunters, trained in the Arctic, man tracking above the Circle in Fairbanks, and studied how to stay alive in nearly every biome between the equator and the poles. He writes every story like his life depends on it, because one day it might. Well, thanks for joining us today, Patrick. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So I met Patrick kind of over the phone. Probably last year, a couple years ago.
I think so. Yeah.
I sent them a pitch to write for their thing, and this is kind of the first time we've talked face to face, somewhat.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and kind of tell us a little bit more about your background?
Ooh, how much time do we got? My background's kind of crazy, man. I went to college for my freshman year up in close to Fargo, North Dakota, and I got a job there as a homeless shelter supervisor, and it was kind of my first like foray. I wouldn't really call it like preparedness survivals per se, but it was one of those eye-opening moments where you realize like, hey, like life can turn out in a completely different way than you expect. Of course, I realized I wasn't gonna be able to afford college too great, and by then, this was like maybe a few years after 9/11. So like the military was kind of trendy. I ended up joining. I became a Cav Scout. Like I said, like you read in the bio, I was doing reconnaissance operations. A lot of the stuff we trained on initially was kind of like Cold War tactic stuff, and that transitioned into what everybody calls GWOT, the Global War on Terror. And we did a lot of counterinsurgency stuff in Iraq. Spent a few years in the Middle East doing stuff like that. And then after that, I'm a medically retired Army guy. Got out, went back to school, got a graduate degree in forestry. I ran my own consulting forestry business for a while. And when I was out there, I started hearing stuff on the news about people getting lost in the woods, even losing their lives. And I was like, well, you know what? I've got this reconnaissance background. Maybe I can help find some people who go missing. And that's what led me into the search and rescue side of the house. And while that was going on, I ended up freelance writing for Offgrid. And things just kind of snowballed from there. I've been writing with them. Gosh, what year is it? Maybe like, let's see. Okay, so almost like over 7 years I've been writing for them.
Wow.
I was their web editor for a while. I ran their new products column for a while, and then recently, when my predecessor, moved on to other things, I threw my hat into the arena to be basically the brand manager, and that's what I'm doing now. And even with Offgrid going on, I'm still finding myself drawn to the like first responder side of things, like getting involved with some government contracts that help out overseas and help train law enforcement and other first responders. So I'm I don't know, that it just resonates with me. So I
I get it. Yeah.
I keep doing stuff like that. But yeah, man, like it's been a crazy ride for sure.
No, it sounds like quite an adventurous life so far, man. And you know, in your bio, you talk about getting to train all over the world. Um, I know a lot of people that would love to get those opportunities. You know, um, I wanted to ask. We'll have a bunch of. I'll try not to step on toes. I've got questions to ask later. We always
Yeah,
do at the
absolutely.
end. Yeah, we always do at the end like a 30-40 minute period that's just these questions.
Okay.
And we've got some good ones actually this time. Like I say that every time, but these are really, really good ones. And I might be a little biased because survival is kind of my background. And so because this podcast, we've talked about all kinds of things. We kind of went a mile wide and an inch deep on everything. But survival is kind of my thing. So,
Heck yeah.
um,
Are these
so I was
questions
able to.
from the audience?
They are, yeah. Some of them, I've got one that I threw in there, but we've got a bunch from the audience that are really, really good.
Nice.
So anyway, so you guys we'll talk a lot about Recoil Offgrid specifically. You guys have all kinds of different topics that you cover. It's mostly prepping stuff, but I guess what are some of the most interesting projects that you've participated with with working for this publication?
You know, when I first started, I was kind of more focused on like some very simple, um, I don't know, I guess you'd call it like primary survival skills, so to
Sure.
say. But that's evolved over time. I'm really enjoying the experiential side of things. So
Mm.
I had the opportunity last year to live with the indigenous in the Colombian Amazon for 2 weeks. Um, and that really got me down the path of, you know, there's people all over planet Earth right now who are living off the land, surviving real disasters, like doing things that uh almost seem superhuman. And I kind of want to like the more I go on, the more I want to tap into that side of things. Um I think we have it really good in the West,
Yeah. Yeah.
where there's a lot of places where people are just trying to live day to day, like just get enough calories, keep their family safe, and like just make it to the next day. And we don't really think about that, like we have the luxury here of, getting upset over what somebody said on social media, but like, in other
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
they don't care. They're just looking for like the next meal or hoping that their water isn't contaminated.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I want to share more stories like that. And I also want to do that to point out to people that, you know, no matter how bad things can get, like we are capable of overcoming that. And we've overcome situations like that for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. We are just biological survivors. And I think if I can point that out and illustrate those examples, I think the off-grid audience would really benefit
Oh,
from
yeah.
that.
I agree. I agree. And it's interesting too. My wife and I just last year went to Thailand and backpacked all over the country there. And we spent a little bit of time with the Karen, some of the hill people that live kind of on the border with Myanmar,
Very cool.
which at that time really was in the middle of the Civil War. Like it had really kicked off and was bad. And
Mm.
so we had a guide that we were running around with that was translating for us. But there were a bunch of military checkpoints we were going through, and I have kind of a story of us trying to look for Lao Cow, which was an alcohol that they have, and that I wanted to try. I wanted to try the real stuff, not the stuff you buy at the store, right?
Mm.
And so I guess our guide was saying that the guards there will buy a bunch of the local Lao Cow and just drink because nothing happens. And if it does happen, they just like firefight and then move out of there. So we're running around those checkpoints trying to get Lao Cow.
Trying to trade for some Lao Cow.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
But one of the guides that we were hanging out with at a elephant sanctuary, I was in touch with for a little while, and we did a little bit of survival stuff, like an afternoon, which was super cool. But like I think it's like first world problems, right? I said something that like my wife kind of dinged me on to the guy. I said because we were like really getting on and talking about hunting, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to come and do a hunt with you guys and stuff, and we were talking about doing this, and then I offhand, just because I'm not used to dealing with somebody who, like, the lack of opportunity was something so foreign to me. And I said something like, you should come visit and we'll do this stuff. And my wife said, he's never gonna be able to come to the US. Like, that's never gonna happen. And it was like, I hope I didn't make him feel bad. And as Westerners, we don't really comprehend a lot of those kind of things. And as human beings, we're so built to survive. Like, it's so natural. I think that's something that gets lost in a lot of this survival teachings is we're trying to teach people all these bush skills and stuff that kind of make you comfortable and proficient out there. But at the end of the day, I was just reading a book called Deep Survival that's talking about like, why do some people you probably read it. Why do some people survive when, yeah. And it was talking about, how and this is something that I've studied and working on my survival book. There's a lot of kids that get lost that survive no problem for weeks because if they're hungry, they eat. If they're thirsty, they drink. Your body is a fine-tuned, it's the best survival tool on the planet.
Yeah, it'll tell you what you need real quick.
Yeah. And just learning to tap into what your body knows it wants instead of like the adult brain, the ego trying to get in control there and saying, oh, I shouldn't do that. I don't want to, you know what I mean? So I think that would be what you're talking about, would be super, super cool to kind of tap into that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think we tend to I don't want to call it dramatize survival. Yeah. We do that, but I think we overcomplicate it. For sure. Like you said, I mean, you get thirsty, you got to drink something. Your stomach growls at you. You're hungry. You're shivering, right? You got to warm up somehow. Like it's telling you what you need, and you don't need to know how to spin a hand drill or carve a rocking chair in the middle of the woods, to be successful. Like, you just kind of have to listen to your instincts and your intuition a little bit.
Oh yeah. And the more right? Like, I think that's another thing too. We conflate survival, like wilderness survival, with like real survival. Because like this guy over there, the Karen were super involved. They still are super involved with the civil war over in Myanmar. They're one of the main cultures of people in that part of the world that are involved with it. And he and I lost contact, and I have a feeling he might have got whacked during one of the incursions into Thailand, or he went over and got involved. And
were things spicy when you were over there?
It was kind of. It's so funny. My wife and I, like, every time we go somewhere, like, stuff kicks off. We were in Mexico when the bombs went off in Puerto Vallarta.
Really?
Yeah, we were, and it was like everything shut down while we were in Mexico, and like they were like burning vehicles on the highways and stuff, and we were not sure where we were going to go. Like, every time we go somewhere, stuff happens. It's crazy.
Remind me never to travel with you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and then at the same token, we always like really get into it, and we that's something that was really interesting in Thailand, was like they're so over touristed that like, and it's totally a place you can go and get away from tourists and really experience the culture, but it's hard to break through that this like barrier of, and in Thailand it's really really evident because you have this expectation that tourists have, like, this is what I think Thailand looks like. And the people there, they're good, genuine people, and they want to give you what you want. And because it makes them money, number one, and because they're good people. But at the same time, like, that's not the real Thailand. And they're so used to, over generations of like, Western people going and like, they're like, oh, let me eat what you eat. And then the Thai people are like, okay, let me show you this. And then the Westerners like, ugh, that's gross, and then that like puts the Thai people off from sharing who they are because they don't want to feel judged, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to break through that barrier, but we've had a really good track record of being able to do that when we go places.
That's the best way, if you can get off the beaten path a little bit, because man, there's a point where like tourist attractions just all look the same. Like no matter where you go, any place that's mainly trafficked by tourism, just it's the same crap in the stores. It's the same food, it's just you gotta break away from that somehow.
Well, and that was going into another question I was going to ask, talking about survival stuff and working with indigenous peoples. The human zoo idea. Have you heard of that?
I don't know.
So that's a thing in Thailand and in a lot of countries I've found. In Africa too, you see a lot of these influencers. They're like, oh, I'm running around with tribal people, in the middle of the Amazon or Africa. I know it's really bad. And in Thailand, it's really bad. And it's essentially just regular, like, people that live in that country. They don't live in huts in the woods, but they put the costumes on and they go out and they still have the skills. They still know how to do all the things because they're, barely a generation removed. A lot of them grew up doing that stuff, but they get jobs in the cities. And this is kind of like, it's an opportunity for them to still practice those skills, but it's a show put on for white people that pay for that. And when we were in Thailand, almost fell into one of those traps. Not really a trap, I'd say, but it's less than genuine. And so I've been curious about like your experience with some of that, because there's the whole inner workings of like with military going and contracting, like in Panama during the Vietnam War. They had the Panamanians that would come and do the training, but then you also had the Indians that would do some training, but they didn't quite get along. And there's all those kind of inner workings. Have you ever experienced any of that?
I would say in most places, that's kind of a thing where they do some sort of like, I don't know what you'd call it, like an ancient or traditional cultural display somewhere, I mean, go to Hawaii, like go to a luau, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's kind of common, I think.
Sure.
And to your point about people, like, I mean, the modern world's almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Even in the Amazon. So this is my understanding of the Amazon. It's not going to be entirely accurate, but I think there's been like 24 tribes in the Amazon that have made contact with the outside world. And they estimate there could be over 100 still in the Amazon that haven't. Right? It's this huge, vast, remote place. Where we went, there were villages in the jungle, right? But like you said, like the kids, I mean, they still had, it was kind of funny. Like they invited us in to this, I mean, hike 3 hours into the jungle, and like there's this little village with thatched roofs and everything, like built traditionally, right? And they invited us in. They made us like piranha soup and grilled palm grubs and like all, like this amazing traditional meal. And as we're sitting there, like, we're like, oh, we're filming them with our phone, like making it and all this stuff, got all our cameras out. And then when it was our turn to eat, we're all eating and we're like, like all that stuff. Guess who had their phones watching us? Like the tribes, yeah, right? Like they had Starlink on the roof, like,
wow.
It's kind of like modern culture is deep in the Amazon. It's kind of sad, which it's going to be a lot harder to find like a truly unique cultural experience that doesn't have some sort of modern twist on it. Like it's, our world is getting smaller and smaller the more the population grows and the more technology gets better. And, like the kids growing up in those places, and because of technology, like they don't want to be in the jungle hunting spider monkeys with blowguns. Like they want to go to town. They want to go to college. They want to live a modern life. They want to be a part of modern civilization, which is not a new phenomenon. Like if you go back and you read about you know, when the settlers first came to the States, right? All the elders in the tribes were like, you got to stay away from these people, they're bad or whatever. But like, you know, the young men of the tribes were like, I want a freaking gun. That's way better than a bow and arrow. And the women were like, I want to cook with a copper pot. That's way better than, you know, whatever clay bowls and stuff that we have, right? Like there's like a desire in us to improve and like make our lives better. And like that's the tale as old as time. Like that's the reason why we are where we are and why we're communicating over the internet and everything like that. I kind of going off on a tangent here, but like one of my personal philosophies, you know, having slept in the dirt, having like done some like really hard living stuff, you know, our ancestors worked really hard to give us air conditioning and high speed internet and fast food and all this stuff, right? They worked really hard. They struggled forever to get us to this point. And we would be pretty selfish and, you know, it would almost be criminal to not take advantage of the sacrifices that they made, right? Or at least to look back and be appreciative of, you know, the shoulders of giants that we stand on, right? So I don't know, like it's complicated, right? Because like,
well, but that's the nature of like we were just talked about a couple of minutes ago, right? Like human beings are just naturally good at surviving, and this is something that I do in a lot of the survival courses that I've taught and that I've been a part of. Survival is like, it's great. You can learn all the things like you were talking about, like you could do the bow drill, you could like all the things, but at the end of the day, the more equipment you bring out saves you time to build those things expediently, right? So like, yeah, if I bring out a knife, then I don't have to spend all the time, energy, calories making a knife or a cutting tool. And the same thing's true with fire and everything else. Like all of the stuff that we've developed over millennia is essentially just human survival. We are making our lives easier to free up time to do other things.
Preserving calories, basically.
Yeah, I almost, when I started this podcast, I almost made it like a regular thing where I would ask people their favorite fire starting method, which I thought would be fun. But then I realized probably everybody's going to say like the same, like 5 things. But I did want to ask you, what is your favorite, like out of all the ways to start a fire when you go out in the woods, what's yours? And then I will tell you mine.
I was going to say, I don't know, something funny like, I don't know, jumper cables and steel wool, but honestly, like a freaking Bic lighter, man. Like a Bic lighter all day. Like even in the cold, you know, if you keep a Bic lighter close to your body, like your core temperature, you can use it, right? You know, a close second, I think, would be like the hurricane matches, right? But man, like if you need to start to light something up, like one little flick of that wheel and you got flames, you got fire. Like it's so simple. Yeah,
so overlooked too.
But a freaking Bic lighter, man. But the one problem with Bics is, you know, it's hard to travel with those, like if you're flying, right? So like usually if I'm doing something outdoorsy and I gotta fly somewhere to get there, like one of my first stops is going to be a gas station. I'll just grab
and then you can buy them anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. Ferro rods are great, you know, but they can be frustrating, you know, if you're being impatient or, you know, the conditions aren't right. You know, I've done bow drill and hand drill and Fresnel lenses and all that stuff. And it's fun, but like to me, it's almost a novelty. Right. So I put on like my search and rescue hat, and like if you're stuck somewhere and the sun's going down and it's getting cold, like you just need something quick. You don't want to like fiddle dink around with friction or like all that stuff. You're gonna be cold all night. You know, like I don't know.
It's a huge calorie thing.
Oh yeah, the calorie thing. You know, do you have the strength to just keep you know, cranking on a bow drill, or like I've torn my hands to heck with hand drill. I think I posted a video on it. Like I failed. Like I had practiced the hand drill like all week and it was
God, it's so
working
hard.
great. And then like the solo night we were out there, I was like, all right, I got this. I was doing this and you know, I was getting smoke, but it just wasn't lighting. And
Yeah, yeah,
I kept at it and I kept at it. And then I noticed, you know, my spindle was getting sticky. And I had like, I looked and I had torn the skin off my hands, you know,
yeah.
trying to work that. And I had thankfully I had a ferro rod as a backup, right? Just in case. But man, like it's sometimes you just aren't gonna get a fire the way you want it if you're doing something super primitive.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Long way to get to the answer on that one.
No, no, it's
Keep lighters all the way, folks.
I agree. I agree. Let me show
What-
you. Let me show you my fire kit, and you'll get a chuckle out of it. So I just keep this with all my stuff. Got a little knife on it. I got knife sharpening stuff in there too. But notice that I have a lighter in there. I usually keep a couple lighters, but ferro rod and steel wool.
Heck yeah.
That's my favorite because I did. I've done a couple. Well, the crap ton of survival nights, but I did an icefall training years and years and years ago, and my grandfather was a POW in Vietnam. We actually just did an interview with him a couple weeks ago. We haven't gone live with that interview yet. It's kind of a long one, but he kind of got me on the survival road when I was like really, really young, and his favorite way kind of became my favorite way, which was a ferro rod and steel wool. Because in that icefall training, I learned really quickly that lighters are not waterproof. And we had multiple ways to do it. And we had some guys teaching us out there that had done a lot of Arctic rescue type stuff. And they were big proponents of the ferro rod and the steel wool. And the nice thing is you can fall in, even if you don't have a waterproof container, like it's not going to hurt the ferro rod. You just shake it off, wipe it off, whatever. But the steel wool, you can take that and just shake it and all that water comes right out. And then it'll take a spark like crazy. And when it catches that spark, it'll get up to over 1500 degrees to the point where it's like literally burning and melting the steel wool, the steel itself. And that will catch everything on fire. And so we did the icefall thing, and it was kind of really wimpy icefall too. It's kind of a funny story. We were actually in North Georgia, and we went out in this little pond that had just like a skiff of ice. I mean, like nothing, right? So it wasn't like we went through the whole thing. We like, fall in, do the seal, like over the ice, but like there was that, it wasn't going to hold you. You were swimming through the ice, right? But we went in, clothes on, with our fire starting stuff on us to simulate an emergency, and it was cold as hell. I mean, it was awful. You crawl out, you do your, you start your fire, you take all your clothes off and start drying them piece by piece by piece, doing your push-ups, burpees, jumping jacks, all that stuff. And it's just a really awful, harrowing process. And then several years later, when I moved to Montana, I was out fishing with a buddy who ice fishing. And he had his phone with him, and he like has this habit where he puts it in his pocket, right? And it was him and his son out there, and we had this tent, and a couple of us were out in holes everywhere, and he ends up getting one and like leans over, and then I hear plunk, oh, and he starts freaking out, and he dropped his phone right through the hole, right? And so I go over there, and I'm like, okay, well, that's probably gone. And he's like, dude, I got all these pictures on it and everything. He's a good guy, just kind of a little bit of a goofball. So anyways, I stripped down and went into the hole to go after it, and didn't find it.
Dang, dude.
But got out.
Pretty hardcore.
Yeah, well, got out and did all my, it was like deep too. Like I did not realize, I think if I had realized, I would not have done it. But
yeah,
I went to the bottom, and it was probably like 12 feet deep or something. So I thought it was like 5, but I didn't realize that the grass was like over my head height, actually.
Oh man,
at the bottom. But yeah, I went down and was like feeling for, but I didn't find that phone. But popped out and did all the things, the jumping jacks and everything. Fortunately, I had dry clothes because I took them off before I went in. But
yeah, that reminds me of the Finnish army. They have to qualify, I think, once a quarter for that kind of self-rescue. And what they do, because they patrol on skis and everything like that, so they'll ski out to the hole, go straight into it, and then they have to recover all their gear first. So they have to like remove their skis, recover their pack, recover their weapon, like get all that stuff, then self-rescue. Then they have to get to shore, and they have like while their hands are numb, they have to get a fire going with the ferro rod, and then like warm up all their stuff and do all that. It's like it's something they have to do. I think they do it like once a quarter. It's freaking nuts. And like they just like they have a blast doing it, right? You can like they all have like great attitudes about it. It's kind of fun to watch.
I will say though, there's people probably hearing this and they're like, what is wrong with these people? In Georgia, it was different because it's so humid and nasty out there. It's just the cold is in your bones.
Yeah.
But up here in Montana, when I went into that ice hole, like it was like crack cocaine. Like when I came out, like my body was hot and I felt awesome. I had so much adrenaline going. And because people do the like the polar bear plunges and stuff, like I get it now after having jumped in, because you feel great.
I think you just transported from the later stage of hypothermia, or like to the later stage of hypothermia.
Yeah.
Where everything starts to feel warm, and like people actually take their clothes off when they get to a point where they're so cold because they feel like they're overheating. They call it
paradoxical undressing.
Yep. So I think you just kind of like hasten that process when you jump into the ice water.
Yeah. They say that's when your your pituitary gland or something gets so cold that it like short circuits pretty much, and you start to kind of hallucinate and it's kind of like nitrogen narcosis, right? You get so cold, your brain starts to not function right. I wanted to do a whole book on some of these old disappearances and stuff. I had my survival book going, and then I was doing this, and I thought I'll just combine them. So I've got a lot of those kind of stories in there, because you hear a lot of these like YouTube videos guys will do, like, oh, this guy disappeared and we don't know what happened to him and it was supernatural. And you watch a lot of these and like they're like, why did he take his shoes off and all this stuff. And it's like it's a known phenomenon, paradoxical undressing, right? Yeah. And that accounts for a lot of those weird disappearances.
Man, you should look into, there's a guy, his name is Michael Nigers, and he has he does something with a group called Michigan Backcountry Search and Rescue, and he specializes in like really long-term missing cases. Like he will actually, somebody missing for like 20 years in a certain location. And all the work he does is free of charge. Like this is just something that he does. He used to be, I think he was in the Michigan State Patrol for a while. Then he did some private investigation stuff. And then, he got into the search and rescue side of things to bring closure to families whose loved ones have been missing for a really long time. And like, he'll comb every square inch of an area for years looking for stuff. And like, he'll find, because like, let's say somebody dies in the woods and scavengers get to them, right? The seams of your pants and zippers and stuff like that, they don't digest as readily as other things. So he'll find like the seam of a jean pant leg in like coyote scat, and he'll mark it on the map, and he'll be able to like map out kind of like where that person traveled and what happened to him afterwards. And like, he'll be able to like basically reconstruct the story and be able to give that to their family's loved ones for closure. It's really, he does some really incredible stuff up there.
That's cool. Yeah. I definitely, you said Michael Nigers?
Michael Niger. He does some like survival training stuff, and everything he does is free of charge. Like he just wants people to show up and live. It's
Oh,
really
cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a really cool guy.
There's a lot of those cases too. There's a one actually here in the valley that's relatively famous in the Bitterroot Valley where I live. This gal was going up a mountain. Although I have talked to the people that were on that search and rescue, and a lot of people have opinions that there was probably some foul play involved. Like they may never have actually gone up, or they went up and then came out, and then the guy that told the story, like the time scale doesn't quite line up. But there's a lot of those. Like I know of one in particular up in I think it was Yosemite, where this gal was camped out with her family, and she went up this ridge and just never was seen again.
There's some crazy stories out of Yosemite.
Yeah. And some of the, like, there's this one guy who does some stuff that I've seen pop up in a number of these casts, and I would love to chat with him, although I don't know if I agree with kind of his take on it. God, what is his name? He was like a PI, and before that he was a detective or something. I have to find his name. Maybe I probably shouldn't say his name. Maybe. But anyways, yeah. So he's made kind of this circuit on the podcasts, and he's written a few books where he likes to put a paranormal tint on it. But I feel like that's a little bit of confirmation bias when I read his stories. Like one of the examples is the paradoxical undressing. Like, I don't know that somebody at the level he claims to be would not have heard of that, So I don't know. He's pretty well-known guy though. Yeah.
What's your take on Bigfoot? Specifically, can Bigfoot teleport or turn invisible?
I do not believe that.
You don't think so?
I would say I'm on the Bigfoot train.
Okay.
But I'm not that far on the Bigfoot train. I like this guy. What's his name? I'm like 0 for 3 right now with remembering names. I've got to find this guy's name. Give me like 2 seconds.
Do it. While you're looking him up too, because the paranormal subject just got my brain going in a completely different direction.
That's the beauty of this podcast.
Was it in Wyoming, or it had to have been someplace out west, Utah maybe? There were like horses or cows that were like completely just mutilated, but when they looked at them, their spinal cords were completely missing.
Wow.
With no, like, there wasn't any evidence that somebody like broke open their skulls and ripped out the spinal cord. It was like they were almost completely intact, but then like when they looked at them, no spinal cord. Where did it go?
That gets into the UAP stuff, the UFO stuff. That's a whole other rabbit hole, right?
Like what are they doing with the spinal cords? Is that like, is that the alien equivalent of like stealing copper wire from a house?
Oh my God, that's such a great, maybe, dude, that might be what it is.
We need some wires. These horses have some great wires just right in the spine.
Organic wires, maybe, man. Jeffrey Meldrum is his name. He was he passed away this last fall, I think. He was on a couple of the Sasquatch TV shows and stuff. He was a professor at Idaho State University, and he was really big into the UFO, or not the UFO, the Bigfoot stuff. And he's got some interesting points. Yeah, he does not come across as somebody who, like, you would think, oh, this guy just, and he was not on the teleportation, parallel dimension Bigfoot thing. I have trouble believing that, but like a biological creature that like is super rare. Like one of his comparisons was like the orangutan thing. So like orangutans are super, super rare. Even like in Borneo where they're from. And you have kind of a different type of family organizational system. I think a lot of what Meldrum says kind of resonated with me because I have an anthropology minor, and that was going to be my train. I almost went into anthropology to get into survival stuff. So a lot of the things he says, like I studied and like Like it didn't go over my head like I think a lot of people it does. And he would say something and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because like gorillas, for example, and chimpanzees, they have really tight family structures with multiple members that like move together in unison. Whereas orangutans, you have one male with a huge environmental territory. And then you have multiple females whose like environmental territory might like overlap with the males. And so like one of the things that he was a part of was like the comparison between black bears and potential Bigfoot, like a large ape that has a similar niche, right? So like we have like 50,000 black bears or something in Montana, and I don't know a single person who has ever found a black bear skeleton. Like that's super rare to find. I mean, it happens. I'm not saying it's never happened, but it like I found a bazillion deer, but I've never found a black bear, and I've certainly never found a mountain lion skull out there.
That's interesting. That's an
And when you think about like an animal that potentially is long, because apes are long living, black bears are not. You can have a smaller population on a bipedal animal built for like a huge area of activity. So maybe instead of like an orangutan that has like a 10-mile territory, you have something that has like a 50-mile territory. Like you think about people in Africa, native people, like they have a huge area of operation when they would go like hunter-gatherer, like because we like that's the main thing that makes people is we have two legs, right? Super efficient mode of travel. Well, if you think about something that's similar to that, you have a huge area. And then if they have a similar family structure to like an orangutan, that picture starts looking pretty realistic. That's all I'm saying on the Bigfoot thing.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you more questions about Bigfoot. Like where do you think they go? Like where are they doing some underground subterranean?
No, I don't think that.
System, like Bigfoot subway.
I mean, again, I'll talk about the black bear thing, right? Like I do a lot of black bear hunting, and I have yet to get one in a place where there's a lot of bears. Of course, I'm not like the best bear hunter, and I don't have a lot of time to put into it. But like, that's an animal that we have a crap ton of in Montana, right? And so if you have something that is like almost exclusively nocturnal, if you have something that's very intelligent, even if it's large, right? It starts, I don't know, that picture looks a little more realistic. Like when you really start, you gotta look up that Jeff Meldrum guy. He's pretty interesting.
Don't they call black bears the ghost of the forest?
They do. Yep. Yeah. The ghost of the forest, or the ghost of the mountain, or the shadow of the mountain, I think.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they are. They're hard to like run into unless like, you know, you have a bunch of food or something, like to do it on purpose, like to go out and line up with one. A lot of these people that do a lot of bear hunting, they have you have to put a lot of time in to finding areas where there's a lot of them, like it's a dense population. And there's a lot of little tips and tricks to get on them, but places like Idaho, you can bait for them. Montana, you can't do that. So you have to get way out there. So one of the pieces of advice is deep and steep. So you want to get out into like just the worst, hardest place to get into. And that's where the big bears are, because they're smart enough to know, like, they don't want to deal with people. It's the young ones that you see, right? Because like, I'm not saying I've seen a bunch of bears while I've been out bear hunting, but not ones I want to take, because I'm not going to take a really young one. I'm not going to take a mom with cubs because that's illegal. You know, I'm looking for the shot that you want to take on a bear. And I have turned a shot down once on a bear, just because it was like the timing lined up weird with another hunt, and I would have had to stay in the woods like another day preparing, and I was on my own getting that guy hauled out, and he was. I kind of regret the decision, but I kind of don't. Hunting is kind of a spiritual thing to me. Like, you know when it's right, when the moment's right.
I got charged by a black bear once.
Oh yeah.
When I was living in Upper Michigan. It was springtime, and I like to go kayaking. I did some kayak camping up there because there's plenty of water. And I was going down this slough, and like you were said, it wasn't steep, but it was definitely deep. And I was just following the slough up for a while. And I mean, the wildlife was great. There was like mama deers with their fawns coming to the water. There were turtles, there were beavers, right? Like every time I turned a corner on this waterway, you know, I saw another really cool piece of wildlife. And then I'm paddling along and I can hear something like rustling really heavy in the grass, you know, on the banks where I'm at. And I kind of like coasted to a halt to see what presented itself. And as I'm sitting there waiting, like kind of excited to see what's coming, up the tree climbs a baby black bear cub, like right next to the water. And, you know, at first my reaction was like, holy shit, like this is so cool to see. And then I was like, oh, like, wait a minute, that's a cub. where's the mom? And all of a sudden, as soon as I'm having those thoughts, the noise in the grass next to me gets even louder. And I was like, oh my God, like this is mama. She's coming right through the brush. And up the tree went 3 more cubs.
Oh no.
So there's 4 cubs in the tree.
Yep.
And now like they know I'm there. They're all looking at me. They start like braying, you know, they're like talking to me or like telling their mom I'm over here. And then I heard what sounded like an elephant or a rhinoceros, just like boom, 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 just running through the brush. And like my heart almost stopped. Like I was probably pale faced, like I didn't know what to do. And she came bursting through the brush and skid to a halt right before the water. And like it wasn't that wide of a waterway at this point. Like I could have reached over and we could have high-fived each other. Like we were really fucking close. And she had this look of just like pure, I'm going to murder you. If I had been in like on the land, I don't think I'd be here right now. She was like, she looked furious. And as I'm sitting there with my paddle, I'm like, what the fuck do I do right now? Right. And I had just decided, okay, I'm just gonna like just paddle for my life before, you know, she splashes into the water to come at me.
Wow.
And as I'm thinking that, like, she gives me this look, like I shit you not, it was this look like, hey, today's your lucky day.
Right.
And she turned around and like the cubs, they slid down the tree like firemen on a fire pole. There's like just like straight down, and off they would. Like she kind of like trotted away down the bank, and the cubs were in tow. And I let them get ahead a little ways, and I think so. I continued, right, and every once in a while I'd give a little shout, you know, just to let people know I'm there. And every time I did, I'd see the mama like stand up on her hind legs and look, right? And the cubs would go up the tree and look, and then they'd go down and they'd run off a little ways. And we must have did that. We did that for like 30 minutes. I was just kind of like trailing them through the woods. And they eventually crossed like a log over the water and like ran off. I never saw them again, but it was like one of the most intense things ever. And part of what inspired me to go get like a 45 and bring it with me in the woods.
Yeah.
For situations like that. Because that like, man, like I had no way to defend myself. I mean, I didn't have bear spray. I wasn't like thinking about it in Upper Michigan of all places. Wow. But man, that was seriously intense. And it wakes you up quick. Like it's pretty crazy.
Dude, that's such a cool story. Yeah, that's why I always tell people to bring you want to bring bear spray for sure. And then you want to also bring like a last ditch firearm of some kind. I have a really big 44 Magnum that I bring just because of a number of things. It's funny talking about bear spray, kind of another tangent. I'm hoping to get the gal, I think I said this on the last podcast too, the gal actually who invented bear spray lives like right here. So I've been trying to line up an interview with her, and it's very difficult. She's very busy. She does a bunch of stuff all over the world, actually. But so like the thing about like bears and the rounds you want to bring, 45 with hard cast, that'll do a black bear pretty easy. But when you get into like grizzly bears, there's this study, I've referenced it once on here before. I got to find it and like put it on the podcast or something. But they looked at They looked at encounters with bears and all the a crap ton of historic encounters where people had negative encounters with bears, and they lined them up where firearms were used, and they lined them up by caliber from smallest to largest, and all of them were successful deterrents, right? So what's interesting is up until you get to the 44 Magnum, well, I should say up until you get about 357, but really the 44 Magnum is where you stop seeing maulings as well.
Really?
So, yeah. In other words, like everybody up until that point, like 50 to 60% of them or more, like 90% in the smaller caliber cases, they're all mauled. Like they survive and the bear leaves, but that's what they consider a successful use of a firearm, right? Once you get to 44 Magnum, there are no more maulings. Like that bear is done. And
Wow.
the average response time you have for a bear encounter, if it sees you and charges, is 0.5 seconds. That's how long it takes them to go 20 yards, which is the encounter. Like that's you're walking through, and you know the bear is like engaged with berries and stuff, and it's not like actively like following. Like that happens. That's totally a thing. But 95% of the encounters is surprise encounters.
You know what though? Like there is a difference too. I have a buddy of mine. His name's Caleb Stillions. He does guided hunts up in Alaska, and he showed me a video once of like these caribou are like running through the tundra, like they're fleeing something, right? And then all of a sudden, here comes this grizzly chasing him. And then the grizzly stops. They must have been like downwind of Caleb, because the grizzly stops chasing the caribou, turns and looks right at him. And like he's got his phone up, like he was recording the caribou. So then all of a sudden, like he's got this grizzly bear. And the grizzly bear turns and he's like, this looks like food too. And it's not running. And it like comes at him. And he dropped the phone. Like he didn't even like think about the phone. He dropped it. And just by chance, the phone landed camera up. And so you see him bring, I think he had a 357. And you could see him like chamber and shoot and chamber and shoot. And he's yelling at this bear, right? And he must have hit him a little bit, because like he picks up the phone and he pulls it back up and you can see the bear running off. But there is such a difference between a bear that you surprise and a bear that's actively like engaged in a hunt. Like that is a completely different dynamic. And I wonder if there's a study that looks at that too, because I mean, the way that you react and the way the bear reacts under those two circumstances, surprise versus actively hunting, like those are two completely different things, you know. And I don't think the advice people give, you know, like, oh, if it's a black bear, you got to fight a little bit, or if it's a brown bear, you better just stay still. Like, I don't think you want to do that if it's actively the aggressor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it changes the advice.
Yeah. Well, you should fight for sure, no matter what. Like if that grizzly bear, I've seen, talk about like calibers. I saw a video. I'm pretty sure it was that same guy that I went out with to when I had to go for his phone in the water. It wasn't his video. It was a buddy of his. I don't know if it's him or somebody else. I know they lived in Thompson Falls, but a buddy of theirs shared this video with them where they're out filming on a phone and they have this grizzly bear. They have a big group and he charges them. And there's kind of like, because they'll false charge, and you can kind of learn to tell the difference. Like I've been false charged by a bunch of moose, but also a bunch of black bears. And they're just like letting you know, hey, I'm here. Don't mess with me. That might have been what you had with that other bear too. But like, yeah, when they're hunting, it's a whole different thing. And this bear, I don't know what it was doing, but they didn't wait to find out. They fired on it with a 308, and you heard that round like pew off of its forehead.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was insane. But it's a pointed Spitzer bullet, right? That's why you want the flat-nosed hard-cast lead bullets. Because with bear, that's what matters, the penetration, right? because even if it's super powerful, like a 308 is way more than a 44 Magnum, but the pointed bullet is going to cause it to bounce off the bear versus because they're like dense. It's they're not like, people don't understand how tough bears really are.
Or like just large mammals like that in general. Like who's that old guy that just got flipped up in Yellowstone by the bison? Like that hump on a bison is muscle just for its neck. That's all it is. And like that thing's huge. It's a tank, you know. Bears, they're like just giant, like furry tanks.
Yeah, that's 100% what they are. They really, it's unreal, man. Yeah, but I tell you, and I usually tell a lot of people this, I'm way more scared of moose than I am of bear, because they give no craps. No craps. I had lots of experiences with black bears, only a couple with grizzly bears. But almost all the, I would say 60 to 70% of the encounters I've had with moose in the wilderness, not including driving or whatever, have been negative. Like they will mess you up.
Moose, I think they just got a chip on their shoulders, right? Because they're hunted by so much stuff out there. They're under so much pressure. So like, I can kind of empathize.
Yeah. They have long gestation periods. They have that baby up until like they're almost more like people in that sense that they have a longer period where they've got to support the calf and teach them how to do things. So they're really susceptible to wolves. Like there's the whole wolf conversation in the West here, which you can argue what they're doing with the elk populations and all that, but for sure they put a hurt on the moose population. And that's why they're so mean, because they have no choice but to be mean, because that's like they have all their eggs in that one basket. You know, they don't, you know, they live for a while versus other ungulates, but still, like that's, if they lose that calf, that's hard. So
I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, dude. So I wanted to jump tracks back to some of the survival stuff.
Okay.
No worries. No, I love this. I could go with this conversation forever, but I'm sure people watching are like, get back to the survival stuff. So I wanted to ask you about like some of the Arctic survival stuff that you've gotten to do, and then kind of segue back into Recoil Offgrid and kind of what you guys maybe specialize in and stuff. But tell me about the Arctic stuff that you do.
I mean, so I guess, okay. I think everything started when a buddy of mine, I don't know if you've ever heard of Wazoo Gear. They make like pretty awesome cash belts, where you can put everything you need to survive in a belt. Like it's really cool. Anyways, I was talking with him one day and he brought up some stuff. Actually, I have it backwards. It wasn't him. It was Jerry Saunders from Corvus Survival, and he had a Wazoo cash belt. Okay, so I'm getting things.
Do they make the like whetstone necklace thing?
They do, yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah.
So Jerry Saunders, who had a Wazoo cash belt, he was the one who clued me in on a book called The Mad Trapper of Rat River. And I guess it was like one of the longest manhunts in history. It happened, I think, just a little after World War I. So it's kind of like early 20th century type of things. And this guy, he was up in the Yukon and Alaska, and he was kind of like jumping from job to job. He ran a trap line up there to sustain himself, and he got accused of murdering somebody. So the mounted police went up there to where they knew his cabin was, and they were going to confront him and like be like, "Hey, what's going on?" or like bring him in or whatever. Well, they get up there and they come under fire. This guy's in his cabin. He doesn't like the police. He starts shooting at him, and they get into this gunfight that lasts for hours, right? Wow. And he's in this tiny cabin, right? And they're shooting into the cabin, right, trying to take him out, but he's still shooting back. And they're like, "What the heck?" I think he even wounded like some of the Mounties, and they're like, yeah, okay, it's getting dark, we got to get out of here. And then eventually they go back, they regroup, they go back to the cabin, and he's long gone by then. And he had like dug out the inside of his cabin, so he kind of had like a fighting position.
Wow.
You know, like, yeah.
What year are we talking about? Like what?
I mean, this was like the 1920s or 30s, I think.
Okay.
And so they're like, all right, we got to find this guy, right? And they start tracking him, and they track him for a long time, and they track him into the winter, right? And this guy, he's still like providing for himself. Like he's all by himself. He's staying warm. He's trapping. He's providing food. He's evading the heck out of these guys. And like there's snow, right? There shouldn't be any reason you can't like pick up a print and follow it through the snow. But like he's finding like hard, crusty snow to go on. Like he's using every counter tracking trick in the book. And they finally like chase him to a point where they're up against these mountains. They're like, okay, we got him cornered. There's no way he's going through here. And he did. He scaled the mountains by himself, like got over. I think he got into Canada. I think he was in the Yukon. And if it wasn't for the advent of flight, because they used like a World War I plane to start scouting for him, if it wasn't for that, like he probably would have gotten away. And I think I want to say this went on for like 2 months, right? So I got to thinking, you know, I was like, man, I wonder what it takes to like run a trap line and be up there and doing that sort of thing. So that's what led me to the Arctic. Well, to Alaska specifically.
That's a good story to get you there. Yeah.
So I was like, you know, okay, I can't like just go full mad trapper, right? I never trapped. So I was like, okay, I got to learn, you know, I think I started with 120 conibears and like how to set them up, how to dye them. You know, the buddy I was telling you about that got charged by the grizzly. He was kind enough to like show me around. We're kind of in the Seward area of like basically right on the Gulf of Alaska. And that's kind of where things started. You know, we went and scouted different places. We set up traps in different places. Not necessarily a like survival training per se, but so like in Upper Michigan, right? It snows like crazy there. It gets cold, all that stuff. Like Alaska, like that far up north was a completely different animal. Even in spring, they were saying like this is the coldest winter we've had in like 50 years. And like we were walking around out there, it was -30, trying to set up traps, trying to find game and stuff like that. So a couple important lessons, you know, revealed themselves very quickly out there, right? You know, like if you spend time in the cold, you realize really quick, you know, about thermal regulation, you know, when it comes to layering, right? Like everybody's like, you know, wear a base layer, then you got your insulation layer, and then you got like a shell layer and stuff like that. That's pretty like common knowledge stuff. But like it's really important when there's a point where the cold, if it keeps going down, like you don't even feel the difference. You know, like after a while, like -20 and -30, like, okay, it's just pretty freaking cold. But managing that, and especially when you're active, right, is like an art unto itself. Finding food in the cold, right? I mean, it was so cold. Like, spoiler alert, I got skunked that whole week, right? Like, I set up traps, and like we eventually found a place where there was like snowshoe hares, you know, hopping through. And I set them up on their trails and stuff like that, and like I didn't like box them in well enough, right? Like they would go around it, they jump over it, like all this other things, you know. One of the things somebody said, you know, after I was telling them about how it went, they're like, well, if a spot is good for one trap, it's good enough for 3, right? So there's techniques and stuff out there that like I still got to learn and do all that stuff. But man, thermal regulation, physical fitness, general physical fitness is not enough. Like if you are going to the gym and you're strength training and maybe you're going for a run once a week or whatever, right? You're doing what you can. If you do that much, you're probably doing like way more than 99% of the population, right?
Yeah.
It's not enough. Like if you're carrying, like if you're going to stay out there and you're carrying gear to live, traps for trapping, camera gear if you're they're like doing stuff, right? And you got to carry that. It's like a completely different set of muscles. It's a completely different way to condition yourself. And man, I thought I was good. I try to stay in shape as best as I can. And I had like packed everything. I even did a little bit of rucking and stuff out there. It just wasn't enough. Like I really underestimated how much that took out of me. I mean, we were going, some days we were going like 16 miles a day with like 70 pounds of gear. And
I've heard it called, I don't remember who said this, but woods muscle. It's a whole different thing that comes into play. Yeah.
Yeah. And so thermoregulation, physical fitness, another big takeaway. And like, I knew this from the time I've spent in the desert, the time I spent in the jungle. But it's just as important in the cold is acclimation.
Yeah.
Even if I would say it would probably take the better part of 2 weeks to acclimate to somewhere. And if you're not acclimated, it's going to suck. Like your body will adjust, but it's going to be painful. I think those were like the 3 big lessons learned on the trapping experience.
Were you doing, were you out of a cabin or some kind of structure, or were you doing like the real roughing it where you're building little like lean-tos and that kind of thing?
So our plan, there were these tiny little boxes basically that people call cabins that like thru hikers use in the summer. And we were going to hike out to those and we were going to stay out there for the week. Well, on the way out, my guide who I was with, he had an old injury and he was also carrying, 70 pounds of gear. Jeez. And about like halfway through the day, he's like, I think he tore like a pectoral like months before. Yeah. And just hiking out there, snowshoeing out to the spot, like it broke back open.
Oh man.
And like now he was having a problem carrying stuff. So what we ended up doing where we stopped in the halfway point, we set up traps, right, where we thought things might be. And we actually had to ground some of the gear and leave it there so we could get back and get picked up. We basically made our home base like a cabin closer to the town, but that wasn't our first plan. And I think if we would have tried to like, it's one of those things where your ego kills you sort of thing. Yeah. And like we both, I think we're experienced enough to make the call and be like, okay, this isn't worth like risking your physical capacity and everything like that. Let's readjust. But then, a couple days later, we had to hike all the way back up there and get the rest of the stuff and come back. So, I mean, it turned into a little bit of a chore, but
oh man.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It was fun because like we went up into the mountains, like there was a frozen lake that we were trying to trap on. We went down closer to the shore where the ocean was coming in. The most successful-ish spot was basically like a river from like glacial melt, that was coming through. Yeah. But we tried a bunch of different spots. It was so cold, everything was hunkered down. Like we both had hunting rifles. Like we were like ready, right? Yeah. We were ready for stuff. I had my hunting license for Alaska, and like we got skunked so hard. out there.
Jeez.
Like it was just brutally cold. I mean, the winds were insane. The winds were insane. I've got this video of me trying to cross a frozen river, and the wind is blowing me so hard, it's pushing me back. Like I'm standing right there, and I'm just sliding in the wind.
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy. And then I went back a week later with a different group. This guy, he runs a company called Phoenix Canine, and he was invited to. He does some like unconventional warfare stuff.
Sure, sure.
And he was invited to Eielson Air Force Base up near Fairbanks to help their AVSEER instructors kind of like revamp the way they train pilots.
Okay.
SEER stuff in like SEER training. I have an article about that. Like I did this back in March, but by then like the weather was warming up and it was kind of irrelevant to publish. But this one's going to be coming out in the December issue of Offgrid. But basically, how pilots are trained to behave in non-permissive environments. So, like, if somebody gets shot down behind enemy territory and it's really cold, what can they do not only to survive, not only to you know counter track and anti-track, like how do they create that time distance gap between people who are pursuing them and them getting to a place where they could maybe get extracted?
Yeah.
Right. So, and it wasn't like cold weather survival per se, but it was like a different spin on what to do. Because like up there, if you stepped off like a hard pack like snowmobile trail, like off into the powder, like you could disappear, be up, be up to your head. So like there's some really interesting techniques that came out of that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world, surviving in those kind of things.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask your favorite for that kind of circumstance, you personally, for a shelter setup, if you had to spend the night, what would be your go-to to do an overnight in an Arctic? We'll say not like a tundra, like worst case scenario, because obviously igloo or snow cave or something like that. We're talking like, there's trees and that kind of thing. What would be your go-to shelter setup?
I think the first thing I would do is probably find a windbreak, whether that's digging down into the snow or like a root ball of a tree or a lump of log or whatever, right? Something to stop the wind. And then if there was enough material, I think I would try to make a lean-to for some overhead and maybe like some reflection. And like I would make a fire as long as like if I'm laying down fire. If I was laying down, I'd want the fire as long as my body is laying down. Or if I was sitting up, I'd want the fire as wide as me sitting up. And when I was because we train search and rescue in the winters in the UP, and something we always carried with us, and this actually came from like, do you know Larry Roberts?
I'm gonna have to look him up.
He was on a few seasons of Alone, and he was actually kind enough to come out and teach our search and rescue team some survival skills. One of the things that he brought to us was the Morris Kohansky super shelter. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay, so
I would spell that. I'm going to pull up a picture or something of that. You said, what's it called?
If you look up like Morris Kohansky super shelter.
I want to pull up a picture for people who are like, okay, that's got to be it. Give me 1 second. Active stage. Is that it right there?
Yeah, basically.
Dang it, let me go back. That. See, with the tarp on it and everything?
So see that the one that's like kind of at an angle, that like triangle looking one, to over to the left.
This
Yeah,
one.
that one.
Interesting.
It's kind of like that, but what he did is basically, because we all had tarps with us, right?
Okay.
And one tarp was a high visibility side, and one side was kind of reflective. So
Yeah.
we constructed a lean-to with the high vis out and the reflective underneath, and then you basically hang like a transparent, um, like a thicker, almost painter's tarp
Okay.
down in front of it, and your fire lay is right outside of that. And as
Okay.
the heat of the fire transfers through the plastic, you're in
Mhm.
there, and like it gets so toasty. I mean, you could get it to 100 degrees. You could turn it
Yeah.
into a sauna. Like it gets really freaking hot. Um,
Like a greenhouse type effect going on.
Essentially, yeah, and it's super effective. So if I were going to be in a super cold place, that would be something I would try to replicate, like a
Sure.
lean-to to reflect the heat and the fire, going like that. Is if you're blocking the wind and you got something like that set up, if you got like a really hot coal bed, I mean, you're gonna have to. People underestimate how much fire it takes to make it through the night, and the
Yeah.
colder it gets, the more wood you need. And so, like, I mean, you probably wouldn't sleep much. You'd probably be getting up and finding more fuel for the fire, right, to keep it going. But you want that coal bed just like, like a forge fire hot, like just
Yeah.
nice and toasty. Um, and try to keep that going until it's light enough to move again.
You carry those little emergency blankets. Those are what I use in super cold. I'll do exactly that. Do like the lean-to shelter and
I,
then put one of those down first and then stuff over top of it.
the only caveat I'd say with that is like it's wise to spend the money on a higher quality space blanket or something like that. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
if I mean, a Walmart one will work fine in conditions that aren't freezing. But like if you take one of those super cheap ones, just throw it in the freezer overnight and see how, like, it'll crumble apart when it's cold.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like that whatever they make that of Mylar or something like that, like if it gets cold and it's really thin, it gets brittle. So like if you got something thicker that's even just a little bit thicker, it's going to hold up way better in the cold.
Yeah. The one I've got is kind of a nicer one. Um, I don't think I've actually ever used one of the little cheapo ones. I didn't know
They're
they would do that, but that
they're
makes
fun to
sense.
mess around with, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've had them like rip and tear when I've used them in like above zero stuff, but
Mm.
yeah, the one that I've used in sub zero is a lot heavier duty because like I kind of figured using that because my hands are not working 100% all the time.
Hmm.
So like tearing holes and stuff in it is not ideal.
I
Um,
mean, it could be useful for signaling, right? Like if you have like a big strip of like metallic material floating around, like that gets people's attention a lot better. And like that's me looking at it through the search and rescue lens again, right? Like you want to be
mhm.
found. So that could come in handy. Um, I when people talk about like survival kits and stuff like that, um, I always recommend it's called marking tape, but it's
Yeah.
like a neon color tape. And some of them, if you can find the one that has reflective pieces in it too, that's great. And you just pull like an arm's length of it and tie it up, and just that motion in the breeze catches people's attention so quickly. It's like a really handy thing to have. Uh, One of the most common ways people get lost, right, is stepping off the trail to like use the bathroom, or go look at something cool that they see or whatever.
Mm.
They turn around, they have no idea where the trail is, and then they go in the direction that they think it is, but it's not, and now they're even more lost, right? And like it compounds,
Yeah.
right? If you mark the trail where you step off and that thing is hanging there, and you turn around and there it is, like now you're not lost. It's such a simple thing to do to solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And people underestimate too, like when it's snowy out, how easy it is to just like vanish off the trail. I was deer hunting one time years and years ago, and it was in like a super flat area, like you could see for like miles. But the road that came in had been snow plowed, and it was like a Forest Service road, but they plow it for people that live like way up there, all through national forest. And so there was like enough of a snow drift around the road that fought like a channel, right? That it would obscure vehicles that were there. And so I got in and was following these deer up like this trail going up in there, and got skunked, didn't have anything. So I thought, oh, I'll just go back. So I start coming back and I realize I should have run into the road by now. I should be able to see it. Like I went into this draw and then came back out of the draw and couldn't see where my vehicle was because it was hidden by that snowdrift, and everything looked exactly the same for miles and miles and miles. And it took me a little while to get out of it, because the thing is like I couldn't rely, because the snow had come down in between, so I couldn't rely on where my tracks had been, and there was so many other tracks that they all looked the same at that point. So it was a little bit sketchy, but that would have been a good thing to know. Like just put that tape up real high, and I would have been able to find my way out easier.
Or in the snow, it's becoming less common, but if you find like a colored drink mix, like a powdered drink mix,
Yeah,
and you can like you can basically like write in the snow with it, and it kind of melts into it and grows, and like it's really high contrast, you know, compared to just white everywhere. That can come in handy, but people are getting more healthy these days with food dyes, so sometimes the powder, you know, colored powder is tough to come by.
Wow, that's a good idea. I haven't thought of that one yet. Yeah, I've had to spend a few nights out there just getting a little turned around and stuff. Yeah, my go-to, I asked you because my go-to is like a trench fire and lean-to.
Yeah,
that's kept me warm.
Yep, it's simple and it's effective.
So the articles you do for the magazine, like the one you just mentioned, about the trapping experience up in Alaska, what are your how do I ask this? How do you come up with these ideas? They just happen organically, I guess, or
sometimes it's like the Arctic AvSeer stuff was the instructor reached out to me and asked if I wanted to tag along, and I was like, well, don't tempt me with a good time. Of course I'll be there. You know, and like the trapping thing, right? That was just something like I wanted to learn. Like I had no baseline for it, so like I had to like get my hands dirty, and I literally got my hands dirty. I broke my thumb in a conibear trap. Those things are really strong. But you know, it's just kind of a combination. Like for Offgrid, right? We're part of a group of magazines that Recoil comes out with, right? So like Recoil is our big gun magazine. We've got Concealment Magazine, and there's editors for each of these different magazines. But like we're all enthusiasts about what we write about, right? Like I love learning about this stuff, and I think finding ways to help keep people alive is like a noble endeavor. So like it gives me a sense of purpose and meaning, right? And like I just think it's cool. So like I'm kind of just having fun, like learning stuff, right? And if there's something I don't know, like if I have a weakness in something, I want to go shore that weakness up. You know, I spent time doing like a HF radio class in Wyoming because I was kind of clueless about, you know, ham radio and like different forms of communication and stuff like that. So I went out, did the class, covered it, learned, and now I've got now I can speak with it through a better lens of experience. And that's kind of where I go. It's multifaceted. Sometimes the opportunity presents itself, and sometimes I go looking for it.
Heck yeah. Have you gotten into the GMRS radio stuff yet?
I'm actually going to be doing something with that in Colorado in November. Do you know? Have you heard of the Survival University?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a really cool thing going on up there. One of the instructors, he's a retired Green Beret. He specialized in comms. He was an 18 Echo. and he's doing like an off-grid comms class that dives into that a little bit.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, so I'll be getting into that in November.
Very cool. That's kind of been my go-to here lately for communication. So I do this. I participate with this nonprofit youth camp, and we take kids way out into the backcountry. And we started using these. I brought things, obviously, like that knife kit and stuff for like illustration. But so we use these little Bowfang GMRS radios because you don't have to do the whole, like, there's a certification, but it's like you sign up and then you get it. There's no test or anything. They're different bands than the ham, but it's like way more user friendly than that, because I could not do the ham thing. Like, I've got a buddy here who keeps pushing me, saying you gotta become a ham, and it's just,
you know, the ham stuff, like, it can be an investment. You know, it's to get the right setup to where you can communicate effectively. Like, you kind of got to spend a little bit of money to get that stuff,
and you got to be a tinkerer.
It's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. It's cool that you can do that, but yeah, you're going to be forking out some money, and the learning curve is kind of steep.
Sure. Well, and you got to be a tinkerer. You got to be somebody who likes messing with setups and like learning different. Like, I have a lot of hobbies, and that is not one of them. But GMRS stuff's easy because you can, buy them just as they are. I mean, I guess technically you can buy them and use them and learn about it online, but like the license is like $35 for 10 years, and then it like applies to anybody with you. So I can bring it and give it to somebody, and we can use them.
And even if you get it and just use it to listen, because you can listen for free, right? Yeah. And if there's a true emergency and you need to reach out to somebody, I don't think they're going to come after you.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So but they're cool because they give you a lot more capability than like a standard walkie-talkie, like 4 or 5 times what you get from a standard walkie-talkie. And then we use these little foldy antenna here. Yeah. That makes a big difference too. So like I've got that guy is the CEO of that. I had him on the podcast here a little while back. He's my hunting partner too, and we use him when we do that. And it's great, even juking hills.
The CEO of Baofeng?
Say what?
You have the CEO of Baofeng?
No. Sorry, that would be cool, but no, they're like Chinese or something, right?
Yeah.
No, I had the CEO of that nonprofit organization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so we that's what we use, the Baofengs.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But anyways, they take a little bit of setup, but they're pretty easy, pretty user friendly.
Yeah, they're way more accessible for sure than trying to get ham going.
Oh yeah. I wanted to talk to you about this too. It reminded me, those Wazoo gear, because they use, I've seen those like knife sharpener necklace things, and I'm going to step on one of the questions' toes here a little bit, talking about gimmicky things. We'll get into that later. I feel like that's kind of gimmicky because I was telling you on the phone before we did this that I make these little stone sharpeners. I was going to show you one right here. So this is one of the ones I carry with me, and all it is literally like a stone from my yard that I took. And you can take them on concrete. Just like you need kind of water. So if you can buy like a stone paver would work, or concrete paver, put it in a thing of water or in a creek or something, or take a piece of concrete if you want to haul it to the creek, and just take it in your hand, your palm like that, and do a circular motion on it, and like just go through different stones with different hardnesses, and there's kind of a medium zone you'll find where the material comes off pretty easily. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but at the same time, like when you then go to put a blade to it, it'll sharpen it really fast. And I noticed that you'll see, like when you're using it, I have a little vial of oil, and I take like 1 drop of oil, put it on there, and then sharpen, and you do a circular sharpening motion. Those necklaces, I've never used one, but you end up using, like, I'll just do this as an example, just to illustrate what I'm talking about. Not a knife, but so you're doing this motion, right? I found that because they've got the necklace drilled through, I have a feeling you'd like end up cutting it, like it'd be in the way in sharpening process?
I'm not a fan of necklaces in general. But I think that like for some people the aesthetic is cool because it's like, a leather
Yeah,
necklace, right? It looks kind of tribal and stuff like that. And I know
yeah.
that some of they cut it with certain lines, right? So if you want to like sharpen fish hooks or things like that, I don't think it's meant to replace like, a serious sharpening system, but like in a pinch, having
Yeah,
just
it'll do
something
it.
with that sort of abrasive material, can come in handy. Um, I think because I think with that abrasiveness, right? Like, don't people turn their coffee mugs upside down and use like that that part of the ceramic as a sharpening thing?
I
Have you ever
guess you
seen that?
could. I've never done that, but I guess you could.
If you have a ceramic mug, because it's usually not glazed, right? It's like an exposed spot that's a little rough.
Huh.
I've seen people like hone up their knives with stuff like that, and I think it's the same concept. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it qualifies as a gimmick, but like I think there's an aesthetic that might appeal to some people.
Yeah, yeah, and they do. I think for me, the gimmicky part is more of the little fire striker like tightening thing they have on the top of it. That's like supposed to be a ferro rod. It just
Yep.
seems so small. There's not enough like run. I like huge ferro rods like these, or even like the ones that are more like that big. So you get a lot of surface area and a lot of length. So you get a nice big stroke through. That
Yeah.
little thing just doesn't seem. I mean, I've never used one, so maybe it works
I
great.
have. I have. It does work. Because it usually comes with like a little ceramic. It almost looks like a
Oh,
guitar pick type of
yeah,
piece,
yeah.
right? And you can get it going. I've even seen people start it with one hand.
What?
Yeah,
That takes skill.
there's
Yeah.
like the one hand wazoo necklace challenge, right? To try to get it going.
I'm gonna have to look that up after this. That's crazy.
But like the cool thing about those, right, is you can be sneaky with those, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Um, like if you're going through TSA and like
True.
it's just a necklace, right? But they
True.
don't know it starts fires, but you could.
I mean, I've gotten some weird things through TSA that like I did not imagine would make it through, that I may have forgotten in my equipment. So
I'm in trouble with TSA for like another year. I was like,
really,
yeah, I can't even do TSA pre-check until like 4 years has elapsed.
what did you do?
It's nothing crazy. So I went to an event that it was like a firearms sort of event, and they gave us some stuff. And one of the things they gave us was an unmilled Ruger 1022 stock, unmilled in a box,
Okay.
brand new. And I remember asking, like, listen, I'm flying, I don't have a check bag. They were like, just keep it in your carry-on and get it through, it'll be fine.
What?
So I was in Salt Lake. This was Salt Lake TSA. I want to call those guys out. And they go there, they scan everything, and they're like, sir, can you come over here? I'm like, here we go. And they're like, did you bring like a Nerf gun or anything? And I was like, no, I didn't bring a Nerf gun. They're like, do you have any gun stuff? And I was like, well, I've got this stock in a box. And they're like, sir, you can't have any gun parts in the airport.
What?
And I was like, that's not a gun part. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, it's a platform on which you can put gun parts. And they're like, well, if you want, and they had me write down a statement of where I was and how I got it and blah, blah, blah. They took pictures of my driver's license. There was like unmarked goons like creeping in on me in case they had to take me down. And they're like, if you want, you can take it and check it. And I was like, I don't have time. Look at the line, blah, blah, blah. Just keep it, right? Whatever.
Oh, geez.
And they're like, okay, have a great day, sir. 2 weeks later, I get a civil fine in the mail from the TSA. They wanted $800. And or if I paid it within 30 days, it was only $300. And after that, I couldn't use any of the fun TSA perks for 4 years.
Man, yeah. I have like a vehement hate for TSA. I'm not gonna lie.
Man.
Like they cause nothing but problems. I read a stat a while back. I got to find it and see who it came from and really dig into it. but like that they have never stopped a single thing. Like everybody that they catch, there was not like it had nothing to do with anything. You know, I had a buddy who got dinged by him and had to pay a fine for something. He came out hunting with me and he didn't know how to, like, I don't think he marked the box and then they put it through the machine. And like, it was so dumb because like they stopped him, called him over and everything, like, and it was in a gun case, right? And all you have to do is like, let them know you have it. And then they put special tape on it. Well, he didn't do that. So they called him over and it's like, well, you know, I don't know how he didn't know this. He should have like looked this up ahead of time. But still, like they caught it beforehand and they could have just said, well, we'll just slap the tape on there. You pay the amount or whatever. Like, no, they fined him for it. Like they did that, but then they fined him for it later. And it's like, what are you guys even doing? Why are you here? Wasting people's time and money.
I bet they have quotas. I hope if there's anybody in the audience working with TSA, let us know what the deal is.
Let us know
how to avoid those problems. Like, do they have quotas? They're like, hey, you guys, you got to hand out this many civil fines this month. You know, like, well, how do they pick and choose who to go after?
I bet that's it. I really do. Man. Oh man, yeah. I want to do. I want to go back to Thailand and do some stuff over there, some survival stuff, and I would love to go to the Amazon. The thing about Thailand is they make a lot of like machetes and stuff over there. So I'd love to like go there, get one, use it, bring it back. And you could put it in a check bag. It's not a big deal, but like, it's just such a pain anymore. Like coming into the US, Jesus.
I know.
We came back from, it might have been our Thailand trip. And we had to wait to go through, like, they're literally TSA agents like waiting there, or customs or whatever the hell they are, waiting, doing absolutely nothing. And there's a line of like the whole 300 people on the plane. We were there for over an hour. Like, just start putting people through. What are you doing? On lunch? I don't know. Yeah, no, they're useless.
It's like the DMV of the sky.
Yeah, that's what it is, the DMV of the sky. Oh man, well, you ready to jump into some questions?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna do mine first because I am special.
Bring it on.
All right, so the number one piece of advice you find yourself giving on excursions or trainings or whatever to other people?
Number one piece of advice. I honestly think it's probably telling people just to slow down. You know, it's not a race to like set up a shelter or, you know, prove that you're like just this ultimate outdoors person or whatever. Like, slow down, take it in, and enjoy yourself a little bit. You know, it's a lot of accidents happen when you rush through things in the outdoors.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. And I thought of that because the piece that I always find myself giving, because when I do these courses, I usually teach people with ferro rod because that's like my favorite one, and I feel like you can carry them anywhere, do whatever with them. Less likely to get dinged through TSA with those than you would like a lighter or other things.
I wouldn't be surprised if you did, though.
I know, like, yeah. So, but the thing is that a lot of people, like, especially when they haven't, or when I've done like a lot of pioneer type, like Old West type, mountain man type courses, they will do like flint and steel. And that one is a little bit more like frustrating for people who haven't used it when they're doing like on char cloth or something. And always I will find people do this because they are like, I'm getting calls from people, leave me alone. Anyways, they will always like get a spark with, and it happens too with friction fire, bad. People will like throw the stuff aside, like they're not thinking about where they're putting stuff down. They're so excited that they got it. Okay, they pick it up, they start trying to work the coal or whatever, and then it goes out. Crap, got to do it again, which happens. It's not like, You know, not every time it's going to go first try.
Yeah.
Where did my stuff go?
Mm.
You know, like it gets kicked under something or whatever. Like they just, and I've had people get super frustrated, especially when we're out there after about the 3-day mark, when you start getting the shakes, you start getting the hunger fatigue, the low glycemic. People start really like the mental game drops down, and they start really getting frustrated with little things. And that's one of them, is they're not thinking and they throw it. And so I always have to tell people, like, just, and I do it right before we go. And there's always somebody who does it, right? Multiple people that do it. You take that stuff, put it in the same spot, you know, like those little tiny things.
That's
exactly like what you're saying.
That's one of the things, Larry Roberts, who taught us all the Morris Kohansky super shelter. That was always one of his things that he preached, and he followed on the show alone when he was a contestant, was just being very deliberate about everything, very mindful about everything. Like when you're done using a knife, mindfully put it away. Like the accidents happen when you're in that mental fatigue and you're not paying attention, and you know, that's all of a sudden you're stabbing yourself in an artery or, you know, something ridiculous, and now it's an emergency. Just kind of slow down and be mindful.
Yeah, no, it's 100% right. Or trying to do too much.
Yep.
Like you were saying, like just the ego getting you killed. That's definitely something that I think gets a lot of people. Like, it's already a survival situation, right? But your body can handle a lot more than people think just on its own. Letting it do its job versus fighting yourself through the situation, wanting to do more, pushing yourself to do things that maybe you shouldn't be doing. That's a big one.
For sure.
All right. So I got another one from James. So he's asking the hardest region to survive in or adapt to with just the clothes on your back.
Just the clothes on your back?
Yeah.
Definitely cold weather.
Definitely cold weather. How about other than cold weather? How's that?
Other than cold weather?
Yeah. I think you faced it with like other than like Arctic or something.
I think any place where it's gonna get wet, you know, any place where there's gonna be rain, or maybe it's super humid. Not so much. Like the closer you get to the equator, it doesn't affect you as much. But if you're in North America and you're not in the desert Southwest, you can get hypothermia, you know, at 60 degrees, right? Like it's you just need to be not dry and exposed to air and things like that. If you don't have a jacket or a way to mitigate that somehow, it could be some bad news. I would not want to be in the Arctic with just the clothes on my back, though. that would be a bad day.
Yeah, that would be, you'd be SOL, that's for sure.
It'd be tough.
Yeah, we it's interesting to talk about like the cold, right? Like there's that myth in survival. I had a survival instructor years and years ago he was like an army guy, and he said that it's a myth that you can be in a desert environment that is like 100 degrees in the day and freezing at night. And I have experienced that here in Montana. That is a thing that happens here. And so I thought, like,
that's not uncommon.
No, especially in the Middle East. And I always thought that was kind of a strange thing. But like, yeah, like going to that question, right? Like any area where like you've got those huge temperature fluctuations. And you know why it happens is because of a lot of these high altitude desert type environments where they have a thin atmosphere. There's less greenhouse effect. And so it heats up fast and then cools down really fast. And I always thought that was a weird thing that he said. I don't know where he got that. And apparently he spent time in the Middle East where, well, I guess it depends on where, because the Middle East is huge. But
yeah, I don't know.
Definitely is a thing.
Sounds like maybe inexperienced talking a little bit there.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I got another one from James. This is going into the gimmicky thing, right?
Okay.
So are there any products that seem gimmicky but are actually worth their weight in gold?
I don't want to, man. You put me on the spot here because
I know that's a tough one.
well, I work with so many like gear companies. Like I don't want to make anybody.
It's true. You gotta tread carefully.
Okay, so I say this out of love.
Okay.
But there's a brand out there. It's called Outdoor Element.
Okay.
And this guy is an avid outdoorsman. And he's also an engineer. So he like combines his love of the outdoors with the stuff that the products that he makes. And they're very unique. And I think like some of the stuff, like he makes these carabiners that have kind of like the same mechanism as like a Bic lighter kind of built into it. So like you can use it for holding gear and everything like that. And if you want to start your camp stove, you got a spark right there. And it weighs almost nothing. Like the stuff that he makes, like because of his engineer background, like if it's aluminum, it's tempered aluminum, so it's tough as hell. Like he knows how to make a quality product, and some of it I think might come off as gimmicky, but it is so lightweight and so multi-use. Like even that carabiner I was talking about has like wrenches built into it and like all this other stuff. Like there's always multi-use stuff, and like if you can have combined lightweight with multi-use, like that's worth its weight in gold in my book. So like I think Outdoor Element out of everybody I know kind of epitomizes that. I don't want, like I don't even want to call it gimmicky. Like it's actually some pretty cool stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's a tough question.
Yeah.
I know where he's coming from too, because there are a lot of things that like you don't know what to buy or whatever. I tell you, one of the things that I carry around every day, and I got for like a stocking stuffer or something from somebody years and years ago, that I now cannot live without, is it's like a little key thing. It looks like a key, but it's a pocket knife, a folding pocket knife, but it's a key, and it's got like, I think they call it a Swiss key or something. It's got a little bottle opener, a screwdriver, a little knife. Like none of those on that tool are any good. None of those tools are any good. But I always have it. It takes up no room, and I use it more than any other tool I've got.
I mean,
gimmicky, but I use it.
I mean, gimmicky is almost a subjective thing, right? Because like you can go and order, you can order a bow drill on Amazon, right?
True.
And you can practice, and you'll get a fire started. Is it great? No, but it works, right? So like, is it a gimmick if you can learn from it? Is it gimmicky if like you can walk away with a lesson or a new skill or something? You kind of got to feel out the gimmick for yourself and not take people's words for it, because everybody's got an opinion and they're all going to try to sell you on it, because you know that's just our nature. You just got to find out what works for you, you know.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And some things are going to work for some people and not for others, and that's okay.
Exactly.
All right. So I got one from Michael. Oh, excuse me. He is asking about your go-to long arms / sidearms for SHTF.
Another highly subjective and not controversial at all topic. Okay. So I think the best sidearm you can use is the one you train with. Hands
cop
down.
out answer, but it's a true good answer.
It's a cop out. It's not a cop out answer. It's the truth, right?
It is. Like, it is. Yeah.
If you collect 10 different guns and you're like, well, this one's my concealed carry, and this is my SHTF, and this is my varmint hunter, and blah 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 blah. Like, how many of those do you train with all the time? Like, probably not all of them as much as you should. Like, it takes, like, okay, for one, skill fade is a real thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it on a regular basis, like once every other week, once a month, once, whenever, right? Like most people have like one range day a year. they go out and like lube it all up, shoot a couple
Mhm.
rounds, and they're like, well, it still works. But handgun especially is the one you train with the most. Like
Oh, yeah.
for me, it's a Walther PDP 9mm, and like I've had it for a while now. I train with it, and like it's comfortable. Like I know it, right? So like it's the best one for me. I'd even use it as a bear gun, right? Because I know I'm probably going to hit what I'm shooting at, right?
Yeah.
But you know, that's just it. Long gun, kind of the same thing, but man, like ARs are just so easily available. The ammo's everywhere. The magazines are almost universal. Um, it's hard to compete with that when it comes to, because you can still, I mean, you can shoot something at a pretty long range with an AR if you've got your sight dialed in, right?
Yeah.
So like it covers short and medium ranges really well, which is probably the what most people are going to engage with anyways, right? And if you want to practice really good, you can reach out a little further. But I would probably just default to like an AR for the long gun side of things.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree with that on all of it. I would say the sidearm, I usually steer people towards like a Glock or a PSA dagger or a Glock clone for exactly the same reason. Like parts are everywhere, magazines are everywhere. I mean, it's and if you train with that system, you can pick up any of those. So
there's always the argument of like, you can carry so much more rounds with a 22 and like all these other different things, right? But then you sacrifice, you know, human stopping power and all that kind of stuff. So
it gets so into the weeds. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's so funny too. Like people don't like you to tell them that they shouldn't have something. I had an interview a couple weeks ago with a gentleman who does Kydex holsters.
Okay.
And he's no slouch. He's done training all over the US. Like he knows his stuff when it comes to firearms and the training world of firearms. And he said something on there that he does not believe that the average gun owner should have a light on their pistol. And I had a little short of that to get people angry and posted that, right? And I had so many negative comments like, and it was intense. Which is great for the channel because it, like, you know, it picks people see that, right? The algorithm picks it up.
Nothing gets views better than hatred.
Yeah, apparently. I'm not like trying to farm the hatred, but like I knew that one would get people riled up. But it's funny too because it's like people do not like you to tell them they shouldn't have, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. Like I disagree with that comment as well. But I know where it comes from because that's really popular in the training world. Because as you just said a few minutes ago, like most people have one training day a year. That's it. Most people buy a firearm, they put it, you know, for like home defense or something, they put it in the drawer and they never see it again. Like it lives there forever. And that's what he was talking about. And that's like, it's kind of like I have a lot of things I say about survival that are that way. Like probably shouldn't do this, probably, you know, whatever. Like I'm always like, don't waste your time learning bow drill, get you a lighter, right? And people get mad. They're like, why would I not want to do that? Like, and it's because of that, because like you have to meet people where they're going to be, you know?
I think even a better question for the firearm stuff is what do you want to use it for? If you intend to use it for self-defense, could you actually pull the trigger on someone? And have you ever trained against something that isn't a paper target? Right. There's actually a really good thing in North Carolina called Troy's Gate, where you're actually facing real role players, and so like you're kind of side by side, and you're seeing them through this like mirrored silver screen, and they're interacting with you. Like you walk for like they'll turn off the lights, and you're walking in, and they'll click it on to reveal the scenario in front of you, and to you it looks like real, right? So you see the role players there, and they're like, the one I walked into was a home invasion, right? And he's like rummaging through the stuff, and then he sees you, and he's like, what are you doing? He gets aggressive, he's screaming, he gets in your face, and some guy, like a buddy of his, walks in and he's got a shotgun, and he pulls it, and like he shoots at you, and it's haptic. You can feel the blast go off because technically they're right next to you, right? But you have your gun, and it's live rounds, and you're shooting at them, and like it's super realistic. It's super visceral.
Wow.
I think everybody who aspires to carry concealed or have a gun for home defense, or if they think they're going to use a gun when shit hits the fan and protect everybody, like try to find a way where you can see if you actually have it in you to pull a trigger. Because like you see some people going through these training scenarios, and like it's wild. Some of the like trained police officers, they're pulling the trigger while they're pulling the gun out of their sheath, and like rounds are just going everywhere. And like it's like you don't know how you're gonna react until you're forced in that situation and can like work through it. You know, it's
100%.
Yeah, I have strong opinions about that.
No, and that's like that force on force type stuff. They have a training they do here that I don't know when they're going to do it again. I want to try to get in on that next time, but I've covered it a number of times, and I've done these trainings myself. But locally, I forget what they call it, but they open it to law enforcement, to medical personnel, to first responders. I think civilians can get in on it. We'll see. But I know the people who do it, so I'm pretty sure I can get in on it. But it's like an all-day thing for like 2 days, 3 days, and they use one of the local schools here. I think it's the Florence or the Victor School, and it's like a classroom type setup, but they split everybody into groups of 2 to 3, depending on what the scenarios are, and they just go through scenario after scenario after scenario, and they have experts in this type of stuff come out and do this, and like they have blanks that they can fire and all kinds of stuff while they're doing it. And it's just that kind of thing. Like you come into one of the classrooms and they have it set up like it's a house, and you're responding to, PFMA, which is Montana's partner family member assault. And you have to figure out the situation. And it's not like there's necessarily a right way to respond, but they usually have a way that they would like that they consider to be the correct way. And they just and they have actors playing out these circumstances, and it gets real. They're like it's just about learning how to react, but also I had Eric Lund on here a few weeks ago, or this last week, it would have gone live. And he talked about the, what did he call it? It's essentially like, going to gun is like the most extreme thing you can do in an encounter. And there's a whole spectrum of things before that people never train in, because the gun solves problems, but it may not be the solution to your particular problem. And there's a lot of problems that come from pulling that firearm, even in a SHTF type situation, right? And so learning
de-escalation is a incredibly valuable skill.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and just learning how to react, how to de-escalate, how to the whole spectrum of ways that you could react. And officers in that fumble, people who are military people are trained, they fumble in those things because we're human beings, right? And that is a skill too. It's all perishable skills.
Yeah, and that's that ties into that. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, look up amygdala hijacking. Right? Yeah. Like when your amygdala's hijacked, you have no clue what you're doing. People under those situations, when they're asked, what happened, they're recounting their point of view, and it almost never mirrors reality because a different part of their brain, the fight, flight, or freeze response mechanism of the brain has completely taken over.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a training to learn how to turn that to be in control. That's what I was looking for earlier for the paradoxical undressing, is the amygdala freezes up and misfires, right?
Yeah.
So kind of jumping off of that into the training world, not just training, but everything. Another question we've got is from Robbie, and he's asking, what can a regular person 9 to 5 do to be more prepared, and what kinds of things are often overlooked, or do they do wrong or put too much energy into that they shouldn't?
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they watch a survival show on TV and they think they have to know how to be a primitive hunter and make shelters and all this stuff. The most important thing you could ever do to increase your chances of survival is take care of yourself. And I'm talking physical fitness, I'm talking mental fitness, I'm talking dental fitness, I'm talking financial fitness, right? It like being physically fit solves most of those things, right? Like being in shape and taking care of your body and eating right improves your mental health, it improves your dental health, and it'll probably save you money, right? Like everybody kind of romanticizes this end of the world scenario, and like people have been saying it's going to come for thousands of years. It hasn't come yet. So like, what's the most probable thing that you could prepare for? If you're in a car crash or if you're stranded somewhere, can you walk 3 miles to help? Can you run to can you carry a loved one? Like, how's your physical self, right? That's number one. Like if you're standing there naked, what can you do? That's where you start. If like you struggle to get off the couch, if you struggle to walk around the block, that's where you need to start. You need to get up, you need to move. If you've got that down, or if you want to work on something parallel to that, what's the most probable thing you're going to run into? Do you live in the Midwest and there's going to be tornadoes? Do you live in Florida and there's going to be hurricanes? Do you live in a place that's prone to flooding? Like, find out what's most probably going to happen to you and take steps to mitigate those risks, right? Like if it's tornadoes, have a plan to meet, have a plan for shelter, have rehearse what you're going to do when the siren goes off. Like it's kind of like survival's kind of boring. Like surviving real stuff is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like Jason Bourne type of stuff, but like seriously, like just get in shape, come up with a few like, what's the word I'm thinking for the
realistic scenario.
Contingency, come up with some contingency plans. Like, if your car breaks down, you got some water in the back, like, just think of that type of stuff. And like, that's the perfect place to start. And like, when you're good and your family's good and you got a warm and fuzzy about things going wrong, then like, maybe for that next camping trip, like leave the Bic at home, bring everything else, but carry a ferro rod instead. Take one thing and try to work on it. But like, I don't recommend like going full bore, like wearing animal skins and sharpening rocks and stuff. Just take care of yourself first. Please.
Great answer. Yeah, there's we used to do this thing. I was part of this survival club back in college, and we used to do this exercise called the survival resume. And we did it like once a year. Whenever new members were there, we would do it, and we'd have everybody sit. And it was like, it comes across as an ego trip, but it totally is not. And you kind of write all the things that you think you would need in a survival situation. Like if our group right now, apocalypse, whatever, what could you provide? And of course, you have a lot of people that get in there and like, oh, I grew up hunting and all. And then you get to the end of it and you've got people who don't have a lot on there. And they're like, well, that's kind of why I wanted to come here, so I could learn these things. And you start talking to them. Do you know how to cook? Do you know how to garden? Do you know how to, like, are you an exercise person? Do you do that? Like, those are skills. And everything that a human does is a survival skill, right? And that's kind of one of the big like hills that I die on, is like, like all this stuff is fun. Like obviously you and I, the things that we do, like this is fun stuff, right? But like in all seriousness, real survival comes down to the things like, because it can be expensive. It can be a hobby and an endeavor into itself. So being able to like do things that can help you right now can also help you later. So having a little garden and playing around with that.
That's a good point. I interviewed a guy. He goes by the alias Selko Begovic, and this was several issues back in the magazine. You can find it. he actually, and you can find what he wrote online is called the SHTF Anthology. I think you can get it for free online. But this guy was in the Balkans, in the collapse of the Soviet Union. So I think he was in the former Yugoslavia. And the city he was in was under military blockade for over a year. Nobody could leave. Nothing could come in. This huge, high, densely populated city, everybody in it they were all competing for the same resources. And he basically said that very quickly money lost its value. So like maybe the first day or two, everybody could use it. And then after that, it was useless. Then everybody went to a barter system. And that was intense, right? Like he was telling stories about how two parties would come to a wall. There was a hole in the cinder block and they would pass things through and they would be threatening each other. Like, hey man, if you screw me here, I've got all my friends, we're going to shoot through the wall. And the other group was like, hey man, we got our friends here too. Like, we'll take you down with it. Like it was like a tense situation, like this barter thing. But as time went on and resources continued to run out, even bartering lost its value. Wow. So then the only thing people had to trade was the skills that they had, right? Like electrical stuff, carpentry, sewing, whatever your skill was. Like maybe you knew how to cut down and process a tree, whatever. And then he said, like, those skills were all kind of ephemeral, right? Like maybe you didn't always need to cut down a tree. Maybe you didn't always need a carpenter. The two skills that everyone needed all the time were the skills that healed and the skills that hurt. Medical and security/defense.
Yeah.
Those were the two skills always in demand. So food for thought.
That's a good point. Yeah. I always thought that was such a cool and eye-opening scenario or exercise that we would do. And that's why we did it every year, because it was always really great for everybody to kind of track their progress on things they learned, things they needed to work on. And for new people to realize that, like, hey, you are not useless, like, at all. We had one guy that came in and he was part of the club for a while, and he thought he didn't really know anything, and he was that kind of person. And we started talking to him a little bit, and he was a nursing student. It was like, dude, right here.
Yeah, well, even like social skills, right? Like, you can keep the group functioning, or organizational skills. Like, there's skills is a pretty diverse concept.
Yeah. Oh yeah, even the bartering. We did a camping trip one day, or a survival trip, but it was like the whole point was a bartering practice. So we had two groups camped out in two locations for a night or two, and then we did a thing where we came together to barter for things, and we had set aside certain things that somebody needed and the other guy had and they didn't have, that somebody, and
it was mostly booze, right?
Yeah. Man. Yeah, that was let's talk about booze, right? I had I used to work for this this publication that I don't think it may still exist. I don't know. I'm not gonna say names. I feel like I mentioned this on one of the last podcasts, so I'm gonna avoid like step on toes. But there was a certain survival professional, big into the TV world and everything, and we had a conversation on the phone about survival stuff and articles that we could write for this publication. He was in charge of it, and he was the kind of person who was very much of the opinion that if you weren't military, you could not know how survival worked, right? Like you were an outlier if that was the case. Like he was that kind of person. And we had a conversation about alcohol stories. And he was like anti-alcohol. The only thing people do with it is get drunk. Like he had a very narrow view of the world. And that showed me his actual level of survival knowledge. Because it's funny, I don't know how many people know this. I just learned this the other day. But alcohol, like just pure alcohol, is 2 to 3 times as calorie dense than the equivalent amount of protein or carbohydrates. Let that sink in, right?
That makes sense.
So by making alcohol out of grain, you are condensing the caloric value and making it shelf stable and turning it into an antiseptic all at the same time, and a fuel.
Yeah, yes, but I wouldn't
I mean,
get
I
too
wouldn't drink
fixated.
a bunch to
I wouldn't
then
get
like
too
use the
fixated on
calories.
the
But
calorie part of the, like, you want to like shore up your calories with alcohol, because there's other detrimental effects to that.
true. Yeah, no, I don't know if I would say that it would be like a number one thing, but like it's a very interesting point, right? Like, because like a lot of people drink a lot of beer and they gain a lot of weight. And really the shelf stable thing is kind of the big thing, because you're taking something that, like a lot of like fruit, for example, that you can then turn into wine. That fruit and sugar and everything is then being more calorie dense than it would be on its own. And then also it now will last, um, versus just like trying to, like, if you ever tried to save apples from a tree, they just don't last very long. But if you make apple, and this is why historically it was done really heavily, is they'd make cider because they could take all of this overwhelming amount of produce and make it last. And as a supplementary calorie, to drink with their meal or something, that was adding more calories into their meal routine throughout a cycle that they would otherwise not be getting.
Yeah, the antiseptic part of food preservation is pretty huge.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then you can let it go sour and turn it into a vinegar and then use it to pickle things.
For sure.
So there's a lot of things. All right, last question. This kind of applies to all the stuff going on with the ATF right now, in the NFA. So this is Tom, and he is asking your opinion on suppressors for survival.
Suppressors for survival.
Open-ended on this scenario.
Huh. I'm a fan of suppressors. I was a 50 cal gunner for a while, and I'm partially deaf because of that. So
yeah.
I think suppressors are great.
Mhm.
And I guess for survival, like, what's aside from hearing protection, you're really not going to get a truly quiet experience unless you're shooting like something designed for it, like the 300 blackout, or like a subsonic 22 round or something like that. Like, if you were trying to get a shot off and have nobody know about it, like, you'd have to have like something really specialized, and they do exist, but you're still going to get some signature and stuff like that. So
well, there's supplemental training that goes with that to make use of that anyways.
Yeah. And I guess okay, so like, if you're using a suppressor while you hunt, right, and you shoot around, and maybe you miss, the likelihood of the animal running off might be less, right? So that could be like a survival scenario where you can actually take another shot and not have to worry about the animal getting spooked. There's definitely there could be an intimidation factor if you're walking around with a gun that has a silencer, right? So like, maybe as like a defensive posture, you become a harder target, just visibly, like you're getting into people's heads. I honestly, I think silencers are cool. I think everybody should come to CanCon, which Recoil has.
I was waiting on that. Yeah.
It's a try before you buy experience. Every gun and caliber has a can on it. CanCon, look it up. It's a lot of fun. And if you have no experience with silencers, that's a great way to get your hands on it and give it a try.
And you guys are doing it, you said, in Vegas this year?
Yep, we're going to be in Vegas October 23rd and 24th. And I mean, if you Google CanCon, our website pops up right away. You can get tickets. We got a newsletter that goes out, keeps people informed. We sell these really awesome VIP bags. The VIP bags typically, like you get a gun with a can. Most like it's like
Wow.
a pretty badass VIP bag.
Oh, cool.
They go really fast. So the best way to learn about when the VIP bags are available is to get on the CanCon newsletter. But yeah, if you want to learn about silencers, man, we've got belt feds with silencers, shotguns with silencers, just like you name it, everything's got a can on it. It's the world's largest fully suppressed range day. And then we do another one on the East Coast in the spring in South Carolina. So plenty of options and opportunities.
That's awesome. Yeah, I might have to. It's right in the middle of hunting season for me, so I might have to make it out there.
Take a break, get a can, and go back out to the field.
Yeah. I'm gonna get into the can thing for hunting, specifically for ear pro. Problem is, I hunt with a lot of like traditional rifles that like are not threaded, and I don't want to thread them. Because they're just beautiful old guns. Yeah, I would posit also for the can and survival thing that because I really like. So the reason I haven't used them for hunting, I don't really like ear pro for hunting, which is totally foolish. But I like being able to hear the things around me.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I get to the point where like I'm like, okay, now I'm making a stock. I have a thing that I'm gonna go after, and then I put ear pro on after, which then like handicaps you. So you could go like the electronic sound protection and enhancement, which is another thing that I'm looking at doing, like the in-ear ones, because the big ear ones are really bulky. They're great, they're cheap, and they do the job, but the battery dies. For SHTF stuff, save those batteries for something else and get a can.
Yeah,
because that hearing loss is real.
It is for sure.
Yeah. I had a thing happen with the sun comes right through on my computer and like blasts on my face. I was doing a story, and I had a buddy that gal, she was doing she's backcountry airplane stuff, and she was working on her plane, and I was out there talking to her, and like she said, well, can you look over here? And so I went over there, and the thing like backfired, basically blew out some of my hearing. And that was when I really started thinking about ear pro, because I could not hear birds or children laughing at certain pitches and stuff for a while, because you get that temporary loss. What do they say? Temporary phase shift, and then it comes back or whatever. That was scary. I was afraid it wouldn't come back. And it hasn't all come back yet. I can hear birds again and that kind of thing, but like it's real. And I've shot a lot of firearms over the years, and thousands and thousands of rounds. I've hunted a lot, and I know I've lost some hearing ability. So especially when you're the one that everybody relies on for defense, to be aware of the situation, hearing protection, like I think they're a good idea for those reasons.
Yeah, you're protecting your senses is pretty important. Pretty important part of survival for sure.
Oh yeah. So the last thing I wanted to do was we can look at your website, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
All right, I got it pulled up here. This is what comes up right off the bat. So if anybody is interested in looking into Recoil Offgrid, this is the website here. There's so much. You guys have so much. Hey, look at that handsome fellow there.
Who's that?
Yeah, look, great. IWI silencers right there. You guys do so much stuff. Do you have issues like because obviously there's recoil major. Do you is there an overlap allowed in that space, or do they kind of like to keep the firearm stuff to themselves? How does that work?
Occasionally there's crossover, more so with the concealment magazine. And they usually borrow stuff from us most of the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I mean, we preparation and survival is such a broad topic that we don't really run out of things to cover or things to talk about. And actually, I've got this is the issue that's coming out this month. It's all about nuclear threats, right? So wow. It's a whole thing dedicated to that. I mean, we cover just about everything you can think of.
That's so cool. Yeah, and you do a little bit of firearm stuff. I asked that just for like the audience. But
A lot of times it's like maybe like a DIY gun build
mhm.
or you know a use case. Like the October issue is gonna have like uh somebody he uses like a 10 mm chest rig for like a bear gun. And like he's gonna talk about his setup and how he's got that laid out and all that kind of stuff. So we usually go into the why of things rather than, oh, here's a gun and it's this caliber and it looks like this, right? Like,
yeah.
what can you use it for? We get into that a little more.
Very, very cool. Yeah, that's a good choice. 10 mm for most people, especially nowadays, because they're used to using a semi-auto. So like converting into a semi-auto that you're already used to using, that's easier for most people than like going from a semi-auto to a revolver.
Yeah, for sure.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, I will link some stuff down at the bottom of this video. I think we're pretty much 20 minutes over, but that's fine. Was there any where can people, like, besides the website there, which is just offgridweb.com.
Yep, offgridweb.com is our website, but you can find us on pretty much every social media channel just at Recoil Offgrid. Yeah, come to our events. CanCon twice a year. We run all 3 blade shows. There's just so much going on. You can download Recoil TV as an app or watch it on YouTube. And yeah, I mean, we're at the end of the day, we're media, right? So you know, if you like guns and you like survival, come and check us out.
Heck yeah. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you being on here. We could probably talk for hours and hours and hours, but
seems like it.
Yeah, no, but it was great to kind of get to know you a little bit more, and I hope people also appreciate it and pull a lot of little tips and stuff from this interview. So
yeah, appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, man. We'll catch you next time.
Sounds like a